It's time once again for another episode of the Buckhead Business Show. Being brought to you by the Buckhead Business Association. Broadcasting live from the Pro Business Channel studios in Atlanta. And now, here's your host for today's episode.
Well, good morning. We are live here in the Buckhead studios overlooking Lenox Mall with a $1 billion view. Good morning, Rich.
Good morning, Mr. Michael Moore.
And it's Michael Moore here, and we've got Mary Blackman with us and Jay Cornelius. And today we're going to twine in some customer experience and make you a little healthier while we're doing it. So we've got an exciting show planned up for you today. We've just come off some interesting weather. We're here. Is it springtime yet, Rich?
It's every day, yeah.
It's
and
spring entered.
For the Falcons.
And for the Falcons, and now we're not.
Don't get me started on that.
No,
whatever.
No. We've seen
that new Mercedes-Benz Stadium. How about that?
And how about that? They lit up the Ferris wheel last night in red and black. Now, how do you light something up in red and black? I don't know about that.
It's not official yet, but rumor is PBC actually got 2 seats now at the new Mercedes-Benz Stadium. You play your cards right, Michael.
There are 2 seats for every game there if you have the.
We have our official PBC seats there, but meanwhile,
right. we'll look for the flash.
Right.
Well, this morning we're going to start out with, this is the Buckhead Business Show, and it's also co-sponsored by the Buckhead Business Association, who've just come off a great startup of the year. We've got back to regular morning breakfasts coming up, so we look forward to seeing you at the City Club at 7 o'clock on a bright Thursday morning, 7 to 9. We have a great roundup of speakers. We just had an annual lunch which had Jesse Itzler from sort of Spanx fame. I guess he keeps Sarah Blakely happy, so
right.
We'll let him be there. But he gave a great opportunity of what it's like to have a seal live with you for a whole month in your home. That could certainly change your coffee schedule, wouldn't it?
And that wasn't a reality show. That was for real, right?
That was for real. He wrote the check and asked the guy to come stay. Can you imagine bringing a seal home to your wife and let him live there for 30 days with kid? They had a small child at the time, so it's very, very interesting. But this morning we're going to talk to Jay Cornelius, who has been part of the entrepreneurial space here in the marketplace for quite a while. He's been a part of several successful companies and grown several successful companies, and now he's doing something in the customer experience space, which is basically helping companies maximize their customer experience. So, Jay, tell us a little bit about that trip you've made over the last few years that really impacts you.
It's been a roller coaster ride for sure. As anyone who has worked in startups or entrepreneurial world knows, it's always interesting to see the challenges people go through. And so what we're focused on doing is helping funded startups, which means companies who have secured at least $1 million in professional investment, and enterprise innovation groups figure out how to take new ideas to market. We start with figuring out their brand strategy, where do they sit in the marketplace, and then prototyping ideas that help them actually test their theories, prove that it's worthy of more investment or taking to a broader market, and then get them built and brought into real life.
So you're really positioning them before they know they need to be positioned, right?
Yeah, that's the fundamental step that a lot of people forget, is you might have a great idea, but that doesn't mean that a bunch of people are going to pay for it. We see a lot of founders who come up and say, I want to make it's the X for X formula. I want to be the Facebook for truck drivers, or I want to be the Instagram for cat lovers, or something along those lines. It's always interesting to see how myopic they are, because they have this need and they're super passionate about it, but they never did the research to figure out if other people have that need. So we always start there, is figuring out what that market is, how big it is, what's the addressable size, is it profitable, is there actually a way to do this and make money, rather than just do it and it'd be a charity adventure. So
charity adventures are no fun, especially for the investors, right?
Well, charity adventures are important too, but you have to have the right expectations.
Well, now you sound a little bit like a real estate agent there. You do represent the investor from a perspective of making sure that you keep your clients as well as make the companies more successful. So talk a little bit about some of the experiences you've had and some of the far sides of the spectrum. Which way does that pendulum swing? Talk about some of the good and the bad, if you will.
Well,
without names, of course.
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's so many examples of companies that have failed. You don't have to go far to find a startup that didn't go anywhere. You don't really have.
That's an oxymoron, right? The startup that didn't go anywhere.
Well, I mean, just because you start, you take that first step, you can fall on your face pretty easily. You have to have a plan. And then everyone knows what the industry is calling unicorns of the space. People like Airbnb and Facebook and the companies who really started from nothing and have grown into these giant, really, really powerful organizations. So you really, if you want to focus on the extremes, those are easy to find. I think it's more interesting to find the things that are somewhere in the middle, where you can find a company who has an interesting idea that might not be very sexy, but it has a market that's addressable, and you can turn that into a 10, 20, $100 million business. And that's not going to attract a super high level of attention from Bloomberg, but it's going to create a lot of value for a lot of people.
Well, it's going to build a lot of families, and it's going to build a lot of customers. So that customer experience becomes so critical. Talk to us about some of the tools you actually use in the marketplace without giving away too many trade secrets.
Well, the tools that are most common are things that are pretty well known already within the startup community, but they're not very well known within the business community as a whole. Tools like the value proposition design canvas, the empathy mapping diagram. We've got a digital strategy worksheet that we use to help people understand how to speak about their products and identify the right people to talk about it to. Mm-hmm. One of the examples that we use is the Millennial Mug. So it's a product.
Millennial Mug.
The Millennial Mug, which is a coffee mug. Everyone has these travel coffee mugs, and some are better than others. And it's just a hypothetical company, doesn't exist, that is intended to create the better travel coffee mug for millennials. And when you hear me say that, it sounds interesting because millennials is a buzzword, but it doesn't actually mean anything. Sure. What does a millennial want that's different from anybody else? So through this exercise, we dig into, well, is it something about how you hold the mug? Is it the size? Does it fit in your cup holder? Does it have to be grippy so it's easier to hold on to? Does it need to clip onto your bag so you can easily carry it with you? Like, what are the things that are really important about having a travel coffee mug? And going through that exercise with people helps them understand that there's more to creating a product or a service than just having an idea and thinking it's going to be good for some group of people. But you really have to dig into what people want. What are their pains? What do they need to gain from a relationship with your product or service? And then how do you speak to that in a way that is easy to understand?
Well, one of the things you just mentioned there was in your analysis, looking at that Millennial Mug, which I think is a very interesting way to build a case study, by the way, is to look at anticipation of what is going to be changing in the eye of the user. Mm-hmm. So when the customer experience changes, and you use that term, is it grippy or does it fit the cup holders? You know, some of the designs of some of the, quote, mugs or some of the other products in the industry, doesn't matter what industry you're talking about, don't seem to anticipate what's next as well as they should. So people are all trying to catch up. So talk a little bit about, again, some of those experience factors that we might not think about as we were startup business owners or product brand development people. I mean, these folks have gone to school for this stuff. You seem to be smarter than they are in some regards.
Well, it's really just about asking questions and being willing to listen to the answer and being willing to be wrong. Most people will go into the market. We could go down on the street right now and ask 10 people on the street what they think of a certain product, and you're going to get answers that you never expected. And so you have to be willing to take your idea, to prototype it on a piece of paper, like we've got these notepads here in front of us, to just sketch it out on a piece of paper, go out into the street, talk to real people who have that need, and be willing to be wrong, be willing to change your ideas. And the important thing is validating your hypothesis about, will this thing work? Will people pay for it? One of the most powerful examples I've seen was at a trade show, and one of the people in the booth said, well, we have this product, I'm not going to name it, but we have this product, and we think it's going to be great for this demographic. And I was like, okay, that's cool. So let's sketch it out here, take it on a piece of paper. And I pointed to somebody else at the trade show. Is that your target demographic? Yep. So I walked over to them, and I said, hey, would you buy this thing? They're like, no, I would never use that. And so I did that like 5 or 6 times, and it really proved that what they have is not going to work. And that company ended up failing about 9 months later.
So the trade show test failed in that case.
Yeah, it's just guerrilla user testing is what we call it. It's just get on the street, talk to real people, get out of the building, and don't be afraid to be wrong.
Well, I guess a true entrepreneur, as you said, starts as a team of one. Or maybe 2, and with an idea. And if they're willing to talk to enough people and get their knees scraped, then they can probably be a little bit more successful. And if they build to their team and they're willing to make those, as you said, make mistakes. It's not how many mistakes you make, it's how many times you come back from them.
Yeah, exactly. There's a quote from one of my favorite business movies, Moneyball, where the character who plays the owner of the Boston Red Sox says, the first one through the wall always gets bloody. And you have to be willing to get bloody. You have to be willing to go out and just ask what seem like dumb questions and be willing to deal with the hard facts that come back to you.
as they say, pioneers have the colored arrows. They make the fashion statement.
Mm-hmm.
They've picked up all the trees. Well, in terms of the kind of folks you like to work with here in the Atlanta market, and I guess you work nationally and internationally, correct?
We do. Actually, two of our biggest clients are in New York. We've got a client in Italy. We've got clients on the West Coast. We've got a good client base here in Atlanta. We're equal opportunity abusers, so we'll take anybody with a good idea, regardless of geography. That's one of the great things about the web is it enables us to work from anywhere.
So with a customer experience model, Lou, how do you go about making sure you use that criterion earlier, the $1 million in funding? Mm-hmm. and a sort of a viable product, which you may or may not accept and may or may not prove and disprove. But talk about some of the other things that make a client a good client for you.
People who are willing to listen. We internally and with our clients, we talk about swim lanes a lot. You, as a client, are an expert in whatever field you come from, and you're coming to us because you need help. So you need to recognize that we are an expert in the things that you're coming to us for help for, and sometimes while we might have an opinion, our opinion comes from decades of work. So it's an educated opinion. And sometimes you might not feel it's the right approach, but we need to test that and see. So a client who's willing to be wrong, who's willing to listen, and who's coachable, to use a startup term, is an ideal client for us. Industry verticals, that type of thing doesn't really matter. There's good ideas across all types of products and services. We typically focus on digital products, but as more and more digital is making its way into our everyday lives, into the physical world with wearables and Internet of Things, that line is getting pretty blurry. So we're not afraid of tackling a physical product. We've done kiosks for stores. We've done full digital experiences that are immersive in a physical environment. That stuff doesn't scare us either, but we really focus on the digital side. So people who need apps and websites and things of that nature. Well,
you bring up an interesting point. I've just watched in the last week or so, I've been working with the cleaning out the garage approach of looking at the Close Fives and the name some brands here and the Craigslist and all the other things. How would you go about looking at a niche if you were trying to help a customer be more successful and not make the mistakes the previous early adopters had made?
Well, there's certainly some tribal knowledge in any particular niche, and so you can learn from other people's mistakes, but that doesn't mean that your path is going to be the same. So you still have to go out and do the work of talking to real people and identifying customers that are willing to pay for whatever it is that you're offering and figuring out what their pain points are.
Oh, good. Well, one of the things exciting is I know you have to go through an elaborate team-building process to get your team working in the right direction. Your employee selection process must be very interesting, and if we had a little more time, we would deal down those drains today. But let's take a minute and take a break and talk about our sponsor, this is not a commercial gig, but I know that both of you people are familiar with the Buckhead Business Association, and you know that you need to be in Buckhead to do business. I think your office is here, right, Jay?
We're actually in West Midtown, but I spend a lot of time up here.
Speaking of that, go ahead and give your plug in to how people get in touch with you at your organization.
Easiest way to find us on the web is 9labs.com, NINELABS.com. You can find me personally on Twitter at JC, just letter J, letter C.
JC. Very good. And a good, let's see, the email. Did you get that?
What's that?
Did you give your email?
I did not, but you can. It's hello@9labs.com.
I knew it was a cute email. That's why I wanted you to get that out there. So if you want to get that customer experience to be better, you've got the man here to do it, and you can just find him at hello@9labs.com.
He has the Twitter handle JC.
Yep.
JC.
Does Jesus Christ know about this? Whatever. Yeah.
I get a lot of his followers. Yeah.
A lot of his followers. Nice. Yeah. He has a few. Well, he started with 12, right?
Well, brand recognition is the key, right? I think we've heard that story before.
Yeah. You'd be surprised how many prayers I get in multiple languages.
Nice.
It's actually pretty entertaining.
It's pretty good, yeah.
Well, I think there's a book there. We've had a number of authors. We'll get you back when you get that first JC book out.
As soon as we do religious programming on Pro Business Channel, we'll give you a call.
I think we'll stay away from that. Let's move on to the other side, because I think we're going to do some customer experience here. Now, Mary Blackman is the king, queen, and other of a great place called Farmstar Living. And I bet you're curious at this point, wondering what in the heck Farmstar Living is, but I think it's a national organization. She's going to talk to us about that. It provides a better habit or habits for the people who get associated with it. So, Mary, strike out and tell us all about it.
You bet. Well, first of all, thanks for having me here today. Well, I started Farmstar Living because I felt that it was high time to start celebrating our farmers like we have done for our chefs. You know how we made chefs stars? Well, I want to make farmers stars, hence Farmstars. And as a business model, of course, you kind of push your way through to find the right lane for you. And so Farmstars became Farmstar Living, which is a lifestyle website that celebrates farmers, fresh food, and healthy living by providing content on food health, on farmer profiles, on farm-to-table restaurants, coast-to-coast, recipes, videos, and even farms you can visit in every state.
Wow, even on Sunday afternoon, I bet.
You bet. It's the best day.
The best
Pack
day.
up the car. Go on a road trip to a farm.
Everybody but the cows is taking a day off, right?
Yeah. Farmers don't take a day off.
Well, now you got started right here in Atlanta, Georgia. Now, where did you start this business?
Well, the concept came from my own personal experience. I was in media, and I've been in that for a little over 25 years.
Careful now.
Yeah, I know. Makes me a little older than 39.
Uh-oh.
So anyway, but I decided to take over my family farm when it was going to be sold, and that was it was a soul-searching process because I never really grew up on the farm, but I visited my mom's, her parents' farm, growing up as a child. And when I really had to look hard at letting that farm go and letting all that history and heritage go, it wrecked me. And so I ended up leaving Beverly Hills and a very successful internet media career to move back to this very rural area right on the border of Arkansas and Louisiana.
Oh, that is rural, I can tell you
I'm
that.
telling you, I didn't have internet at my farmhouse. And I was 45 minutes, as the joke is, to a piece of fruit. So I was really remote, and during that process, I was schooled, educated, and I learned what it's like to be on a farm. And that also really inspired me because, farmers are a really unique breed of people. They have courage, they have conviction, they have passion because it's not a cakewalk to be a farmer. And I really felt like it's often a thankless job. And I thought I could take my media background and this new passion I had, which I started to share with the farmers, and elevate them so that other people could relate to them, could understand their world better, and see where their food comes from.
So now you're doing the blogging stuff. You've got to be doing some video stuff. You've got to be encouraging people to be more communicative. How do you get the farmer who's busy daylight to dark and sleeps a little bit to begin to give you enough content to make your people happy that are your users? I guess your users are on the far side of the food table?
Well, I have two different audiences, okay? One audience is mainstream public, the people who maybe have never been to a farm, but they're really intrigued and curious about where their food comes from. And 95% of people today want to know more about where their food comes from and how it's grown. Okay? And the millennials, they're all about it as well. They want to know how their food is processed. Where is it, coming from? How is it sourced? And so my audience with the public is helping them relate to their food in a way that maybe they haven't. It's to shine a light on the farmers, on the farm fresh food in a way that they can say, oh, so that's where it comes from, or that's how it's grown. So that's one audience, which is educating in an interesting way, in a fun way to the public. Then my other audience is the farmer, like you talked about. And yes, they work from sun up to sundown, and it, all throughout the year. So I
7 days a week.
Yes, they
Cows
do.
don't rest.
So I try to schedule a little bit of time with them so that they can tell their story and that they can share what they think is so special about what they do, and also what they wish people understood better. And so I think it's such an important message that I give them an opportunity to share, that they want to make time. And, they seem very grateful for the opportunity to have a voice that is heard.
Well, I think, the farmer who has the ability to learn their own story is then able to educate not only their children, but the other people in their communities about what they really do. Because as you made the comment about being, 45 minutes from a piece of fruit, there's not much fruit that grows between Arkansas and Louisiana, but you've got to wait for that Chiquita banana or the organic banana to come to your door. And how does it get there? Well, farmers have the same problem. You just don't go out and get the truck full of watermelons. Somebody had to plant them, grow them, harvest them, market them, because it's not all roadside stands anymore. But you mentioned farm to table, which is exciting, and I know we have here in Atlanta, we're very blessed to have a lot of what are called local farmers markets. Mm-hmm. So talk about some of your work in the educational arena that is kind of every week. Are you doing anything here in the local marketplaces or any special cities to help?
Well, I do things in all markets. So, obviously Atlanta is where I live. I did move from the farm to Atlanta where my brother lives, his family, and I lived in Atlanta once, and I love it here. So I've put down my roots here. So it's very important to shine a light on the local community and the farm-to-table restaurants here. So we have over 80 farm-to-table restaurants in our farm-to-table directory of Atlanta restaurants that source locally. So you can find that. And we also have farms around Atlanta where you can go and visit. So literally you can find farms to go on the weekends or go to a petting zoo or go pick berries or just go on a tour. So we try to do that, and that's constant content.
Well, let's just take a minute there. That's a good example of something I think we should focus on or highlight just much. If you had a few hours and you wanted to either experience a farm at a picking or see something going on, how far from Atlanta would you have to drive?
It's really not that far. There's so many that are nearby, and the great thing is that we have a Farmstar Living app, which is interactive, so you can literally look at that and say, what is the farm nearest me? And you can just look, and it will give you directions. It'll obviously tell you how long it'd take you to get there, and I think it's a great way to spend some time and get to know where your food comes from and support a farmer.
Now, what do you do with schools and people to help them educate and pass out to children more connections, or do you work primarily on the adults, the people who can afford the farm-to-table restaurants?
Well, as an online resource, Farmstar Living actually showcases other organizations that do this. Like, as an example, when you mentioned school and education, October is a National Farm to School Month, so we'll work with the national group there. We also love to promote companies such as Captain Planet, who is doing this day in and day out to educate children. So we like to share their stories because they're really in the trenches on this 24/7. So we support those groups, and it's a pleasure to be able to bring that to light.
Now, about how many farms around the country are pictured in your app?
Well, on the app and on the Farmstar Living website, we have around 900 farms, and this is agritourism at its finest. Mm-hmm. Because, when I was starting this, which I launched this in January 2013, so I was working all on this behind the scenes in 2012, we were looking for farms. And only thing I could find really was like an Excel spreadsheet of certain farms without the warm and fuzzy information that I needed. Mm-hmm. So I actually got a group of people together. We researched so that people could easily find different types of farms. So you could actually find farms that might allow you to have a wedding, or farms that have a bed and breakfast, or a restaurant, or petting zoos. And then, to me, that was a great service that was missing, so that people could find great farms. And so we rolled that out, and now it's about 900 farms.
All right, so let's see. I think I heard that. So if I download the app,
yes, sir,
and I want to get married, and I want to have a wedding at a farm, and
me too,
and I want to have a great breakfast for my wedding party as well as the guests, and then I'm going to be able to use that Farmstar Living app, right?
Yes, and I better get an invitation.
You better get an invitation.
And JC can do the ceremonies for you. Yeah.
JC can,
come on down.
Can be part. Well, I want to wind back into this a little bit. Mary, we've kind of covered the gamut of your process. You are one of those new technology companies. Mm-hmm. You have been in the trenches learning just what your customers, constituents, and what you as the entrepreneur wanted the experience to be. It sounds to me like you've built a tribe over time that actually has two different sides. You have the warriors and you have the workers. So you've got the people who are out doing the using every day. We'll call them the warriors. They're actually using the forks and the knives. And then you've got the other side who are using the pitchforks.
True.
And to get the product ready. So strength-wise, where do you see your marketplace going over the next 2-3 years? What are the things you can control and can do?
Well, I will tell you, this has been like a rocket ship. I'm not kidding. Because the more I have been in this business, the more people I've noticed that people are really wanting to have a better connection to where their food comes from. Transparency today is so important. And what I like to do is help them be educated in a way that they can feel good about the brands that they support or they purchase. So when you go to a grocery store, for example, and you see all these brands, you're like, wait a minute, is this a good guy? Is this a bad guy? I don't know. So I try to basically let them see where that food comes from, because a lot of the brands today are actually supporting farmers all over the USA, but their story isn't told. Mm-hmm. So I believe over the next 2 to 3 years, my company is going to continue to skyrocket, because this has become such an important area that no one really had addressed until Farmstar Living was launched. And now, as I go into my 4th into 5th year, I have a ton of content. I have great relationships with these food brands, and I'm able to, tell what makes them special and unique when they're worthy.
Good.
Yeah, so I don't know if you know this, but I'm having this big event on food transparency.
Tell us more.
Okay, well, it's in 2 days. I have 16 of the most authoritative expert food brands flying in from all over the USA and Canada to share their story, how they grow their food, and to sample their food to Farmstar Living fans here in Atlanta and the media.
And where is that going to be held?
Well, we have sold out with a huge waiting list, unfortunately.
Well, next year will be here.
It will be bigger.
All right.
But it is at the W Hotel in Midtown this Thursday. And so we have brands like Wonderful Pistachios.
Ooh, that sounds good.
I know. Taylor Farm Salads.
Oh, sounds even better.
I know. And like Mission Produce Haas Avocados and Hampton Farms Peanuts and just amazing brands. We mentioned watermelons earlier. We have one of the largest melon companies called Melon One, who have watermelon farmers right here in Georgia that provide them the watermelons.
If it's not from Georgia, it must be from Alabama and North Florida.
Yeah.
So that's good. Well, Jay, you've been listening to this process. Has you been doing a pretty good job of building the customer experience at Farmstar Living?
It sounds like it. And one of the things that comes through listening to you is you're passionate about what you're doing. And that's an important component of any story, is knowing that the people behind it actually really care. And so if there's a way to distill that down and to make sure that that same kind of passion comes through in all of your indirect and online stuff, then I think you're in good shape.
Thank you. Well, I am passionate. It's in my blood. I am a 4th generation farmer. This matters to me. Mm-hmm. I've watched my, family, my grandparents in this world and all of their peers. And today I have met farmers all over the U.S., and I want to share their story in a way that does it justice.
Well, congratulations. Sounds like you've got the dungarees, you've got the hat, you've got the gloves.
Yeehaw!
You've got all that good stuff. Now, one more time, tell us how to find you.
Well, I would love for everyone to follow us on our social media outlets, which is on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, Farmstar Living, and it is farmstarliving.com. And I would love to see you guys there, because we have a lot of great things I think that you'll enjoy.
So, Mary Blackman, we appreciate you being with us today.
You are so kind to have me.
Well, and Mr. Cornelius, Jay Cornelius, it's good to see you, JC.
It's a pleasure being here.
And so we're doing a very good job. As we wrap up here at the end, we talk about the Buckhead Business Association one more time and talk about why you should be there and why you should be part of Buckhead. So we're very excited to be involved today with opportunities. If you've got friends out there who need to be on the radio and tell their story, we had one more guest this morning who couldn't make it in studio with us, but the opportunity to tell your story just the way you want to tell it. Rich, my co-host, is always of the opinion that we don't ambush anyone here.
I got an opinion, yeah.
I got an opinion, so Rich.
A couple of takeaways from this morning's show. Quick question for Jay. You talked about this proof of concept and the example you mentioned at the trade show. What about crowdfunding as a proof of concept, or what other avenues would you suggest, or how would you rank or scale those?
Crowdfunding is interesting. It typically means that you've got to do a lot of marketing work up front, and you still have to figure out if a market exists. Right. So if you wanted to go on the street and kind of test and say, well, if we were to make this thing, would you buy it? You still should probably do that before you go into a crowdfunding campaign.
So simply that's the precursor to the crowdfunding.
Yeah, simply because crowdfunding, it looks easy. Like you go into Kickstarter and you see all the stuff, and these like sexy videos, and those are really actually difficult to do.
Yeah.
to get a great quality video to tell your message the right way is probably going to cost, minimum a couple grand, up to 10 grand, could be even more. So that's still an investment. And you can prove a lot of those ideas just by talking to people on the street pretty easily. That'll give you the confidence to go ahead and make that investment in crowdfunding.
And on for Mary, so this food transparency event, it's not plastic food, is it? Or
Not often.
you see, right? Not often.
Well, it doesn't.
No.
It doesn't
You can
spoil
see right
for,
through
it's
it,
for
yeah,
photos
No,
only.
it's fresh.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. So the transparency, I get it. So great show here today, right? Yes or yes?
Yes or yes is both right.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of fun here today to have an idea that we all think farmers are important. We all think customer experience is important. But many times we don't drill down and figure out what really makes a company successful. And again, we all really don't know who our farmer is, do we, Mary?
No, but we are helping with that mission.
We are looking at the picture. So go to Farmstar Living and take a look, and go to 9 Labs and get some more information.
And real quick on that event, so
Yes, sir.
It's sold out now. Come on.
It's sold out. Yeah, that's a good thing. Yeah, it's
next
a good
year-
marketing.
Rich, let's
strategy,
talk.
Yeah, we'll talk
Let's
after.
talk.
Yeah, we'll talk. Yeah.
Now, are you going to have the event next year in Atlanta again, or will you move it to another city possibly?
I was just curious, like your audience, are these exhibitors, vendors, people that are restaurateurs would be attending, or not necessarily the general public per se?
Well, I am having the public.
Okay.
I invited Farmstar Living fans from our social media following.
Okay.
And it is also with vendors. So basically, companies that I love that are farm fresh food were invited.
Right.
They are experts in their categories, and they are going to be showing and sharing where their food comes from, how it's grown, and they're going to be sampling that to the media and to Farmstar Living followers.
So it's a taste of the farm.
A taste of the
It
farm.
really is. We're bringing our business to life.
Nice.
And we plan to have another one.
That's good. You may even have to do it semi-annual and so you sell out more.
Yeah.
All right. I guess we're out of time.
We are. out of time. Looks like they
According to the
minute
clock
hands
on
have
the wall,
moved
yeah.
on.
So quick announcement. Either one of you been to a Buckhead business event? Have you been to an after-hours mixer or a breakfast event in Buckhead?
I've been to one of the happy hour things, yeah.
Okay, yeah. After hours,
Yeah,
yeah.
you started happy hour. We started there early with bourbon, right?
And they do the Young Bucks too, right?
The Young Bucks. Looks like
Yeah.
we might have some qualified parties here.
So if you're if you treat Michael right, he'll probably get you to a breakfast. Yeah.
We would love to have you join us Thursday mornings or Thursday evenings for our after hours, or just join us. So give a call to buckheadbusiness.org, look it up on the website, and drive down. My name is Michael Moore. I had the pleasure of serving as president many years ago, but just kind of still hanging around because I do enjoy this part of Buckhead.
Back in the day before we had streets here in Buckhead, right?
Well, that's a whole other story. That's a whole other story.
Come on now.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
The wagons needed
The wagons,
something.
yeah.
The
They came
wagons
right
is-
from the farm right to the. They brought you fresh coffee. Yeah.
Now here's your
to the breakfast. Yeah.
Here's your last trivia there.
Okay.
Rich.
Yeah.
Do you know why Peachtree Street is so crooked and goes all the way from the city all the way to wherever else the other end of the world is?
I don't know. Crooked. Were there politicians involved? Or
No, it's just basically the old Indian trail that went along
okay.
Peachtree Ridge.
Wow. Thank you
Now,
for
I don't
that.
think there were any peach trees
And-
there yet, but they just call it the Peachtree Ridge.
And you won't read that in the Buckhead Guide. Yeah.
No,
so
but you
it's
will
insider.
read it in the 238 pages if you read the Buckhead book and pass Sam Massell's test.
Okay. Well, we will see you next time on the next episode of the Buckhead Business Show.
Very good. Next week.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining us and our guests on the Pro Business Channel. Use the social media links here to share today's show and stay tuned for the next episode of the Buckhead Business Show. Brought to you by the Buckhead Business Association.